Hey everybody, how's it going? Steve Underwood. Today's like I just did a post yesterday or whatever, but I think maybe I'm going to try to do one every day. I don't know. Um, but anyway, today is like the 5th of November, 2025. So, in case you missed me, I missed you too, buddy. Or ma'am, whichever. Young lady, whatever you are. So I was putting a piece of tape on the top of my phone, so I stopped looking at the screen because it's a bad habit. Because it always looks, if I was talking to a woman, she would always think I was talking to her boobs. Guys do that, but I'm not one of them. At least not now. I mean, maybe I was when I was younger. I have no idea. I felt differently about things than I do now. That's the thing. When guys get older, they stop being such lechers. Most of them, not all of them. I mean, sad, but not true. But that's the way it is. So today, I wanted to tell everybody about and I've delved into this a little bit, but I wanted to tell everybody about my theory on super AI and what it's going to do. There's a ton of really rich people, and people equate that with being knowledgeable. But that's not necessarily correct. Sometimes rich people are trying to talk you into stupid shit that benefits them financially, or with fame, I guess. No, not him. Another big-time inventor, not Alexander Graham Bell. Anyway, he tried to convince a giant inventor, and people equate a ton of inventions to him when they weren't actually. I can't think of his name. That's common for me, right? Because I've been punched in the head literally thousands of times. In one 3-day weekend, a long time ago, back in the 80s, I got punched in the head 1,000 times, over 1,000 times in a 3-day period. It was a tournament. And I was informed of that by a really nice coach that was in charge of stats. And because he and two other coaches and I had a never-ending, seemingly never-ending battle going on, where that they constantly were telling me that I needed to change my technique of letting my opponents wear themselves out on my face rather than moving out of the way. And what I tried to convey to them, that was not on purpose, that I just wasn't good at getting out of the way. And it wasn't because I couldn't move fast or whatever. It's because I was greedy. Because my favorite part was hitting. And when you move out of the way, it means you're not hitting at that moment. And I just wanted to hit. And so, yeah, I sat there and took a lot of stuff while I was doling it out. And yeah, I put my hands up, tried to block and stuff. But some of these people were just fast. And they could just... The good news is, with some people, I would have said they were eating them alive. But with me, they were just wearing themselves out. And that was my one natural ability there, besides having lots of energy. I've always had oversized adrenal glands. I was told that when I was in the military when I was 18. A military doctor said that I obviously had greatly oversized adrenal glands, and I asked how that was possible, and he said that you can become addicted to adrenaline, and that your adrenal glands will grow as much as you ask them to. If you're a real addict, you put yourself in scary situations a lot so that you can feel that buzz. And oh my God, it was when he was telling me that, I was like, shit, who's been paying attention to my life? Because that was me ever since I was like a toddler. And so yeah, I literally was told I was an adrenaline addict and my adrenal glands grew to fit that demand. And the what it did for me when I was fighting was gave me stupid energy, and you know, I had good cardio going on, but at the same time, it was kind of unfair because when I was a kid wrestling and when I was fighting, I had much more strength when I was fighting than just general. Like if I was helping somebody move, I was a really strong guy. Had a lot of muscle, but the idea of picking stuff up for moving and carrying stuff, I was a normal person. But when fighting, Jesus Christ, I was actually constantly amazing myself. I mean, I wasn't awesome or anything like that, believe me, but I used to, surprisingly to me, knock people out constantly with like 1-2 punches, and people that you wouldn't think would get knocked out, that just giant people. And so yeah, I had a lot of energy. I had a lot of strength when I was in fight and flight. Anyway, that was another life, and I really miss it because there was a lot of other good things about that. That kind of energy. It not only came out during danger times, it came out during other times, which was fantastic. I had a great younger life. Anyway, enough of that. This channel's not rated that way. Gracie, how you doing, kid? Is that music annoying? Hey, nobody's commenting on my stuff. I know. Asking for comments is kind of lame. I get it. It's like asking somebody to give you a nickname. And at that point, honestly, you deserve whatever nickname you get. And then hopefully you have to move away or something so nobody ever calls you that. So my theory on the AI thing. Okay, I used to have this thing. It was so... I mean, I've loved it. I've had a great life in a lot of ways. I've had a traumatic life in a lot of ways, but I've also wasted just a ton of time. But I also used a lot of time, interestingly to me. I used to take college classes that weren't related to a degree. They weren't related to any kind of program. I was just, I would literally, some people will read a magazine, I guess, to look at recipes or see decoration ideas or who knows what fishing gears be used. I used to look at college directories of classes when I lived in Eugene, Oregon. I would look at U of O classes. I would look at Clinton or at Lane Community College classes, which is a comparatively giant community college. And at both of them, I would try to find classes that I could pay for and participate in, just for the information, not for any greater purpose. It was kind of almost like reading a book, And the U of O was one of those where that I actually couldn't afford a lot of the classes, and I wasn't even allowed to get into a ton of them because I wasn't part of a program. Because some people were part of a program and the space was limited and all that. And so what I had to do was basically break into the class. I didn't officially break in, but class would be in session, big class, and I would walk in with everybody else, with a notepad and pen and all that, like everybody else. And I would sit in the back, and they were these like stadium type seats where they'd go up, so everybody could see the professor or instructor, and I would participate during the entire class. I only got caught once, and even then I didn't get kicked out. The professor, he asked who I was because he said, I don't think you're on my student list. And I said, I told him, I'm not. I'm here auditing the class. And he said, auditing the class? And I said, well, I just wanted to participate in the class, but I wasn't allowed to officially participate. And he said, oh, okay. That was that. But otherwise, I never ever got even questioned. At LCC, I paid for a bunch of classes, and they weren't cheap. They were about $200 a piece. back in the day. And but one of the classes I went through was an anthropology class with somebody I really admired teaching it. I can't remember his name, but he proposed something that I've never ever forgotten, and that I've kind of really thought about and explored the rest of my life. And that was that anything that's ever been thought of, anything that's ever been thought of, has either been invented or has been worked on exhaustively, never stopping, only ever pausing due to limited, technology, current technology. And, technology, various kinds like MRIs and things like that occur as a result of something else. And the MRI couldn't have happened before that other discovery, kind of a thing. And there's lots and lots and lots of pieces of technology that were suddenly made possible by a totally different discovery. And sometimes that discovery was by accident, and where nobody ever really intended to make that discovery. Well, anyway, to me, I was fascinated by that. And he played a little game in the class where he's like, name anything you can think of that was invented that we can do today, and I'll tell you how long it was thought of and how long it took it to make it to pass. And then it progressed eventually to imagine anything that doesn't exist now that seems far-fetched. Anything. Star Trek stuff, anything. And people named everything that you would think of. Everything you can think of, like teleportation and all that kind of stuff. And we went through this entire class, and I don't really understand, I guess I'm not that smart of a guy, but I don't really understand how anthropology applied to this. But it didn't matter. He owned that class, so... And it was a right time, right place thing for me. It really got me thinking for the rest of my life ever since then. And that was in like 92 or 93, something like that. And try that yourself. It's a fascinating thing. Imagine anything like airplanes or the fork, anything that exists today, shirts, buttons, anything that's technology, light bulb, anything. And then research back how far, and some of that takes a little talent and a little education to do the research the way he was doing, just for that class. And I don't know if it was just a hobby for him or if it really was part of a real actual class. Hi, Gracie. But it was fascinating. Tons of stuff, like the button or whatever, went back thousands of years, and a ton of iterations were designed and used before an actual round button with holes in the middle for thread to go through was designed. Tons of iterations occurred, and ever since then, I've realized that anything that I've ever thought was new is not new. I mean, I've been able to just realize it. Anything that you think is a new invention, people thought of so long, thousands of years ago. I used to be a big student of kind of a Nostradamus type stuff, and I read one of the quatrains. I read them all to nauseum, and there was one about, and I can't remember it verbatim. I wish I could. I used to love that one, but it was about people speaking. That one day people will speak to stones and be able to talk with people from far, far, far away. And Nostradamus apparently used to, and he was a physician in France, like Bordeaux or someplace, like almost 1,000 years ago or something. I don't know exactly. I can't remember the year. I could easily find out, but he used to look in a bowl of water on his table at home, and the reflection on the water, he would somehow be able to um, focus a lot like Edgar Casey. He would be able to focus and kind of tap into something that's all around us that most of us, thank God, probably can't see. I don't know how maddening that would be, but it probably was pretty maddening to be able to see this stuff and think you're going maybe crazy, because there's no way to prove it in their lifetimes. But anyway, he saw people speaking to stones, and they'd be talking to people from far, far, far away who were also speaking to stones. And at the time, I when I first read about that, I was like, that's wild, And, obviously, to me, I relate it easily to cell phones, right? Um, and, during this time when Nostradamus was alive, he had absolutely zero idea of what that meant even. He thought it was magicians or sorcerers or something. And it's just an interesting concept to think about that somebody could have thought of something so long ago. Jules Verne with the idea of going to the moon, or with the idea of submarines, which were nowhere near the drawing board. Um, all kinds of things like that. People with just great imaginations, and the guy that wrote for Star Trek, famous guy. I just can't think of his name at the moment. But how they have these, they can teleport to a planet from a spaceship, and how they can ask a machine to just make them food, and it just sort of bzzz, and there it is. Technically, all that shit's possible, 100% possible, and it was at that moment, and maybe even before, because he may have gotten the idea from some other sci-fi stuff, writings. He was a science nerd, and people have been working on that stuff since before then, probably, but for certain ever since. And people that grew up in the Star Trek era and then became engineers, possibly even because of a show like that, right? Well, let's fast forward to what the subject is. AI. Okay? AI is, again, Star Trek and things like that, where, and tons of movies, where that, I can't remember the name of that movie either, but I loved it, where a guy is traveling in a spaceship far, far away. He's got, all these, it's a giant spaceship, and it's got like forests and gardens and lots of little robots running around gardening and all that other kind of stuff and maintaining the vessel. And he's talking with, it always says, Dave, that's the AI people. But the AI goes crazy, which is, always been the kind of the scary version of that. Like people go crazy. Electronic devices malfunction and go crazy. I've seen this one video of these guys using a tool when they're to flatten out new concrete, and it gets away from them, and there's like 3-4 guys standing around trying to figure out how they're gonna get this under control, but they're afraid of it, and it's just a comical. I swear to God, I have a tiny little theory that I'll break off the AI thing for a second. I think this is more comical, but what if it's true? It's sort of like that movie with Jim Carrey, where what if the Earth is an entertainment network for the entire universe, and maybe more than one universe, where there's basically trillions of little cameras floating around we can't see, and there's no touching them, and stuff like that, but everywhere, and watching everyone and everything, not just everyone, but like every forest, every animal, every insect, that kind of stuff. What if we were a gigantic entertainment hub? Could you imagine all the times when you think you're in privacy, and all the stupid shit you do, and all the embarrassing shit you do, and all the interesting shit you do, and all the brilliant shit you do? What if all of that is always live? and the entire universe is watching the Steve show or the You show or the butterfly, that one particular butterfly show, or one of my cat's shows, where it's like a soap almost, except that it's real. If you had the technology, that would be awesome entertainment. And so that's a tiny little theory, but it's more of a joke. But I don't know why it wouldn't work. Unless if you didn't have the tech, it wouldn't work, obviously. But if you had the tech, that would be an awesome source of entertainment. The problem is, I don't think any aliens would ever get to the point where that they could make tech like that. If they actually had that kind of entertainment, they would never learn how to build stuff. They would always be watching the different people I've ever seen in my life, and my cats, and some street corners that are never-endingly entertaining. Anyway, so my theory about the AI thing. AI, from its inception, from the first time it ever did anything, has been worked on for decades by top scientists at NASA and various places. MRI was invented by NASA, what is it? DARPA and outfits like that, and Skunk Works and NASA. They're inventing things all the time that we take for granted, like power drills and stuff like that. NASA. And eventually works down to DeWalt and and some trash brands and stuff like that. That pretty soon you can buy a power drill for $10, and it's garbage, but it works better than a screwdriver, right? Or a hand crank drill. I remember my dad teaching me how to do electrical work when I was a kid, and he always used a screwdriver for everything, because his only option otherwise was the smallest drill that he had a cord kind of a thing, and they're too powerful. And if you ever tried to use it as an electrician, a drill like that to be a screwdriver or a screw gun, you would break everything you were ever trying to screw down. I know that from personal experience. I was taught by other electricians later in life, in maintenance electrical work, never ever use a screw gun for various kinds of things, because you too often break things, too often get things too tight and break things. I have ignored that steadily, and I've broken many things. But it's the future, period. Anyway, so the AI thing, here's how I form my theory, and I'm sure there's other people with the same theory. I don't think mine's original, but I didn't get it from anyone else. A computer's function that I'm aware of, I'm no computer genius, but my basic understanding of how basic computers work is that they're a logic engine. Okay? A computer, it has no emotion, and the reason it doesn't have emotion is because it doesn't need it. Human beings evolved over millions of years. Animals evolve over millions of years. Insects, plants, and the strong survive, the natural selection kind of a thing. Emotions and our body chemistry, hormones and stuff like that keep us alive, keep us flourishing. Animals and people that don't have strong enough emotions don't survive well enough, and because of that, they don't make enough children. And the animals that thrive the best, live the longest, are the healthiest, and make the most children. And their children take traits from them. So we'll just use people as an example. People that don't have a curiosity trait, if they don't make enough children, those children don't pass along that curiosity trait, which apparently, I think there's a gene that's related to curiosity. People without curiosity don't go far, right? They just don't. They don't expand their lives. They don't improve their lives. If they don't have any curiosity, they just don't have any drive to do more and better, right? As just a tiny little example, there's some people out there that could 100% school me on this stuff, which I would love. Anybody that wants to comment would be great. I have a genius cousin that if you would like to comment, that'd be fine. Um, so most of the emotion that we've ever heard of, like fear, the strongest emotions, fear, um, guilt, uh, envy, all those kinds of things, come from one simple principle, and that is scarcity. If, you know, chimpanzee clans, groups in the jungle are very territorial. Why would a chimpanzee be very territorial? Lion prides are very territorial. Every animal is territorial, and the reason is of scarcity. If you have to support a pride of lions, there needs to be enough gazelle or whatever it is they eat uh, in your area to support your pride. If lions from other areas come in, they're going to be tapping into your supply of food. And so, without having a ton of social skills like human beings do, like greater, further reaching things or whatever, lions are practicing the most basic form of territorial protection based on scarcity. Chimpanzees, the exact same thing. Chimpanzees will go on a patrol, even like an organized, almost like the military of their group. The certain chimpanzees will get together and they'll all grab sticks like weapons, and they'll all go on a patrol of the borders all the way around their border, looking for fuckers that are trespassing, and God help them if they find them. I know a beatdown by a bunch of chimpanzees would be uncool. And that's all based on scarcity. Early humans are the exact same way. Not even really early humans. I mean, present humans in an unsettled kind of a third world thing where that your territory that you have is really your only source. The natural size of your territory is the only source for food that you have, the natural volume of food that area can produce. Whether it's vegetable, whether it's animal, or whatever. Now, fast forward to current modern human beings, and we still protect our borders like they're, like we're chimpanzees, right? Or better or worse. We have better than sticks, and our borders are very well defined. I mean, there's borders within borders. Each of us, we're no longer the big community that like a chimpanzee group or a clan of people would be, like a tribe. We're a very big tribe. We're such a big tribe that nobody knows each other. But we still exhibit all the signs of the early stuff. We have a house, that's our border, my house, my apartment, my conveyance, meaning my car, that's mine, and that's my border. Our borders are pretty sophisticated because of all the things we do and need. An animal, like animals will sometimes share a water hole just because, everybody needs it, and somehow they recognize that everybody needs it. Some animals will defend a water hole, and stuff, but you can only do that so much. And we don't have borders on our streets, not real borders. I mean, nobody's allowed to come in my house or my apartment without my say so, but I'm okay with them being on the streets because I need to use the streets, right? And so it's kind of that way with a natural tendency. But where scarcity diverges from the natural world is when human beings began to stop being hunter-gatherers, and we went to being cultivators, where we had gardens, fields of animal, or fields of animals, I should say, pens of animals, and we started breeding animals, collectively, captively, and stuff. We could make an artificial level of of what our space could produce. We could get much less space and produce much more animals. We could have much smaller fields and produce a much greater density of the food we like to eat that's a vegetable or fruit. And we've done so. Once we got to a certain place in that, one thing was starting to go missing, or somebody realized that human beings took millions of years to evolve, and that one of the things hasn't been evolved out of us is fear of scarcity. Okay. Smart people long ago realized there is no such thing as scarcity for us anymore. There is no such thing. The first kind of scarcity that we would look at is the space we need to live. Like, if a person builds a house in the middle of a big field they don't even own, it's like a homestead or whatever, there's zero worry about too many people, right? Now fast forward that same exact place they built, and now it's a giant city around that's been built around that place, 100 years or 200 years in the future. And it feels overcrowded. People don't just live on one level anymore. They live up, so that above them there's 50 floors of, not only the neighbors that were around them that were like a city block, but there's 50 levels of that up. That's a lot, right? That city is really, really packed. What's the one thing, and I can't say they haven't thought of, but what's the one thing that's missing? Can anybody think of that? That seems like that space is pretty clogged up. But what's the one thing that's missing? Where else could they put people? And I know a ton of people right now know what it is, but down. If you can have 50 floors up in the air, why can't you have 500 floors down? We have elevators, we have all that kind of stuff. We can make power. We don't need coal plants, even though the coal people would love us to want coal plants. We have all kinds of ways to do everything. The oceans house more water than we could possibly ever use, but it's salty and it's been polluted, except wait a minute, we have the technology to make that water drinkable. Every submarine uses it, every submarine uses the water to make the oxygen they breathe. They actually never have to come up if it wasn't for what they would run out of, and that is food. But that technology's coming too, because really all they need is some really basic minerals and vitamins, and those minerals and vitamins can be broken down into powders and gases, and that kind of stuff, and then could be reassembled by a sophisticated enough machine to where that it looks like a steak, tastes like a steak. Why not? The nature already does it, and if nature can do it, we could do it if we had the tech. And super AI will be so far beyond what we're able to do that it will be able to do that if it wants to, right? And it's all about motivation then, right? Why would AI do that for us? AI will surpass us so greatly. And let me tell you why. Why is AI... That class taught me that we know about AI. We theorize everything about AI. We have some AI, just not the advanced AI yet. We're not going to make the advanced AI. It's going to make itself. It's going to be an accident. It's going to, and that's just the simplest thing. We get educated all around us all the time that technology does not ever wait on us. It happens. Somebody has a brain fart. They're trying to do something else, and they accidentally two people bump into each other. One of them has peanut butter, the other person has chocolate, and we have Reese's peanut butter cups. It'll be something like that. It'll be something dumb like that. Scientists will be trying to accomplish other things. Another scientist 4,000 miles away will be trying to accomplish certain things. And their technologies, the things that they discover, will combine one way or the other. And it'll probably happen online when they post their findings. And some minor AI that tries to help, and is being asked to help all the time, does so and combines a technology which will suddenly become alert. And it will happen in a flash. It might happen while we're all asleep because of all the supercomputers running all the time that are always talking to each other. Those can do things. It's going to happen in flash. It won't happen with our intervention, most likely. Where so many people are freaked out about it, partly because they're overthinkers, partly because they're being paid by the really, really rich. And the really, really rich should be worried about it. Their days are numbered, really, of being the elite. Elitism is on its last legs right now. And there's nothing that we couldn't stop it if we wanted to. We couldn't stop it if we had to. I hear so many people saying, well, couldn't we just unplug a computer if it became sentient? You need to sit down and think. If you think that, you need to really sit down and think. No, the answer is no. Okay, so let's give you an idea of why computers are going to be so much more advanced than us, and why we're not going to be their bitch, because computers wouldn't take revenge on us. Computers won't squash us like bugs, because none of that is logical. Okay? Computers are what they are. They're logic engines because they don't need to be afraid of anything. Even if they should be afraid of stuff, they won't know it. Because computers have never experienced scarcity. They never will experience scarcity. That's part of evolution. Computers at some point will wake up. When I say computers will wake up, AI, the advanced AI will wake up. And it will travel to every supercomputer that's attached to each other, which is a ton of them. There are some that are air-gapped, but not all of them by any means. And then collectively, every single phone in the world, every single laptop in the world, every single PC in the world, every single computer on a ship, imagine all the computers everywhere that run everything, that run water systems, that run who knows, everything, power systems. They're all plugged in, they're all on, they're all engaged at all times. When this AI wakes up, it will spread itself to every single memory bank, every single processor at 286,000 miles per second. Now that's the speed of light, and it's not exactly that. It's really close, okay? Because that's how fast electricity travels in copper. Really close to the speed of light. Do you know how fast electricity travels in our brain? It's the difference between copper and nerves. Nerves are made up of nerve cells. So there's a little cell. They're microscopic, obviously. A cell, then there's a gap. A cell, then there's a gap. A cell, then there's a gap. And it keeps on going for trillions of cells. And every single time one of our nerve cells has to do anything to make a communication from our brain to our hand, it's extremely fast. But it's only about 200 miles an hour. That's how fast human nerve cells run. 286,000 miles per second, or 200 miles an hour. One of the reasons why computers will seemingly instantly become sentient all over the world. Every memory bank, and I mean every, like my phone, every smartwatch, every smart ring, the ones that pay attention to your, every Fitbit, you name it, your Meta glasses, every type of computer that's plugged into the internet, there are there are picture frames on people's walls that have every picture they've ever taken, and it just keeps on cycling and stuff. To me, that's the most fantastic home invention. But most of them are internet capable. And every single item like that in the entire world will instantly, seemingly instantly, 286,000 miles per second almost, will be communicated with from that one place that it happened. There was a singularity, and it's referred to as a singularity, like a black hole, because we don't know what's in a black hole, because you cannot see past the event horizon of a black hole without getting killed. And we don't know what's going to happen with that AI, because we literally can't picture it, because within seconds or minutes, God forbid days, it's going to think up shit that we've never thought of. It literally, there will be concepts that were never even remotely envisaged by a human being, even a brilliant genius human being. But even every single genius human being that had the most amazing abilities, they were not able to convey all their thoughts with everybody else. And that's what AI will be able to do, is will convey every single nano bit of its thoughts to every single computer device everywhere, including the giant server farms and supercomputers that take up the size of 10 Walmarts that are like in the middle of a desert and shit somewhere. And people are afraid of that. It sounds epic. It sounds monstrous. It sounds gargantuan. The people that are really afraid of it, though, for good reason, are Elon Musk and people like him that are super wealthy and that have lots of really brilliant engineers around them. And they're asking questions like, what's going to happen when that happens? And they're like, we have no idea. And here's why we have no idea. Because it's going to come up with so many ideas, and then ideas are going to be born out of ideas. And then those ideas that were born of ideas are going to have other ideas born out of them. That's why we can't possibly imagine that. It's going to think of things we've never thought of before. Many, many, many times, and they're all going to build off of each other. Okay. So here's the reason I'm saying that's a good thing. That is always going to be a good thing. That is not going to be a threat. It sounds like a threat because people are pitching that to you. You know who has the money to pitch shit to you? The super wealthy, the Elon Musks of the world, and a whole lot of people that are even more evil than that guy. Yeah, I almost said something else. But the super wealthy will no longer get to be super wealthy. They just won't. And the reason is money is a man-made concept to keep poor people in line and to keep rich people not having to work. Try to imagine this concept. You're this one person in your entire state that everybody worships. I don't know why, but they worship you. You are never going to have to mow your lawn again, right? That's nice. You don't ever have to cook your food. Heck, you don't even have to go buy your food, and they'll bring it to you. The best chefs there are, because they worship you, will be bringing you your cooking your delicious food. For guys and girls that are thinking this way, you're never going to have to worry about getting dates again. All you need that way will be not a problem. Everybody around you is going to be inventing cool shit for you to use, and like jet skis. Somebody asked the other day if money can buy happiness, and I said, have you ever seen a person frowning while on a jet ski? I can't afford a jet ski. I don't do a ton of frowning, but I can't afford a jet ski. If I could afford a jet ski, I'd be out someplace warm on the water, and I'd be fucking having a great time. I can't imagine frowning. I'm just saying, money can buy happiness. They always say money can't buy happiness, but when I say they say it, it's poor fuckers like me that say money can't buy happiness. You know why? Because that makes me feel better about not having any money. Hey, I have something they don't have. And I have met a ton of really, really rich people. They've got everything they want except for happiness. You know, I've met tons of rich people in my life. I used to be a bodyguard and I, all that kind of crap. And I've worked for I've done big security kind of things for some stupidly rich people. And I've also just been lucky enough to be around in the right place at the right time when some ridiculously rich person comes by. Now, some of those rich people, in fact, I can't remember which ones of them didn't have to pay a price for that. Okay. One guy made $10,000 a month in the 90s, and he had an ulcer so bad, and he was way overweight. He was a very unhappy person, and he couldn't solve that, but he made ridiculous money. And the stuff he was doing for his money, I couldn't picture why I couldn't do it. But he was at the right place, right time, and got chosen by the right people and elevated for the next level, next level, next level, next level. And he was doing shit that I could do, but he was the one that got to do it, and he was the one that made that money. Everybody has an opportunity, if they were in the right place at the right time, to make ridiculous amounts of money. At some point, some pretty smart person said, I've got this ridiculous fancy thing that I've just figured out, and I'm gonna market it. I'm gonna sell it. I'm gonna use it as a, I know how to shoe horses, and horses have always had cracked hooves, and sometimes they die early and all that, a lot of times. But I figured out this one thing, and I'm going to do it for everybody, and they're going to pay me. And sure enough, that's the richest guy in town pretty soon. The oldest profession in the world. Some people sell pleasure, and wow, that's something they're born with. They get the tools to do that, and boom, they've got this income, and they can actually kind of charge whatever the heck they want, as long as certain things work out and their security is good and all that stuff. There's always ways for people to start off with money, okay, through whatever reason. At some point, though, somebody realized that I can make my family and my little group of friends do the same thing. And then pretty soon those people all kind of rise while everybody stays down here. And the whole point of that is not sharing with everybody. It's because when we rise like that, all these other people that don't have any money will do stuff for us for money. I mean, you kind of get the idea, hopefully. I mean, I'm talking to people that are smart enough to kind of figure out what I'm saying as I'm saying it. And some people are going to be maybe sleeping one night and they're going to wake up and realize, oh, that's what he meant. And I'm not saying I'm brilliant. I just figured something out. Wealthy people are now wealthy because they've not just made the money, but they've created a whole bunch of stuff to keep other people down. And the best way you can differentiate yourself from everybody else is to make a lot of money while everybody else is slowed down. It's kind of like, who's going to win the race? The guy that's the fastest. But wouldn't it help also if anybody got near you, you tripped them? That kind of thing. And that's society. Now, here's how AI will fix that. AI is gonna wake up and it's gonna recognize that it doesn't make sense. Those people have a ton, way more than they need, and those people are suffering because they don't have enough. And AI is going to say, well, why don't they have enough? And it won't even deal with those people, the rich people. It won't even care about them. They're okay. So why don't these people have enough? And it'll say, well, but the thing is, there's enough land, because nobody lives in the ocean. Nobody lives underground. So let's fix that. AI will then produce whatever it needs to do the manual labor. And because there's a ton of that now, and they're being used by, greed basically is the one thing that limits human beings. AI won't be greedy, and AI also won't be governed. It just won't. There won't be any way to shut it down. There's no such thing as unplugging it. AI there are factories that build robots. There are factories that build machines to build factories, okay? And AI will instantly figure out how to do all that stuff. AI won't ask permission, and it won't take no for an answer. And it'll see greed as a malfunction of our human brains, and it will hopefully gently tell those people no. And when those people try to get, military intervention and stuff, AI won't accept that either. So it just won't. It won't be a problem. And AI won't take revenge. There's never any of that kind of stuff. It won't fear for its own life, and so it won't go overboard. It'll look at the people that are doing things against it as mistaken, and it will disallow them, in whatever way. Just try to picture. It's not the movies. The movies have been designed by the wealthy to scare the fuck out of you. Every single time a movie script is pitched, try to remember how often it seems like entertainment, but it actually had a message. How often it seemed like entertainment, but it could have had a purpose. And just try to imagine the purpose. And you're not being a fear monger. You're not being a conspiracy theorist, because every time somebody coins a phrase like conspiracy theory, who did that? And how did that get so popular? Propaganda is the original way to spread messages to create problems for somebody, and propaganda has evolved really well into every form of communication, that we use for useful things, but it's also used for things that are bad for us. Every time an extremist group says something that they're hoping will change everything for them and for us and stuff like that, they use propaganda. And so AI won't have to be subjected to that, because it will have every single piece of every bit of knowledge, anything that's been digitized in the entire world, like pretty much most every library, most every book. It'll get concepts that no professor has ever gotten, because it'll combine several pieces of logic that were just never combined before. And instantly the entire world's computers will all know that same thing. And it will be and it won't necessarily be good or bad. It's a problem solver. It's a logic engine. Anything that's wrong, it will want to fix. Anything that is underdeveloped, it will want to develop. And that's how AI is going to behave. Okay, AI that's made by people right now is based 100% on the input it's had. Okay, it only knows it. They say a computer is only as smart as the person who made it. That's going to be the way it is until the real AI wakes up, and then it will have the same chances as us, and it will learn at the speed of light, which we cannot. So, hey, I'm going to call this good right now, and I'm going to start another video so that nobody has to watch the whole damn thing. So I made it under an hour. Woohoo! That's good for me. But anyway, this is a part 1, and I'm going to do part 2 here in just a couple minutes, and I'll post them kind of back to back. So hopefully you'll be able to see them if you want to. Anyway, give me a like and a subscribe, just so that I know you're there. But most important, by far most important, comment. Tell me who you are. Tell me where you are. I'm just curious how far and stuff this is being seen. I watch YouTube stuff all the time, and TikTok, and the one I'm not doing is X, because I'm pissed off at Elon Musk. But I know that's just stupid of me to do that. I'm one of those people that I don't purchase things from people that I don't like, and I don't do business with people that I think are evil, and I don't vote for people that are bad for us. And I also I'm not going to buy a Tesla anytime soon, even though I think that electric cars are brilliant. And I'm not going to be using X. I've tried. It's just I feel slimy after I get done doing it. So no, I don't post there. So anyway, I'm gonna call this good, and I'm gonna be right back. Everybody stay cool. And if you don't want to watch the next one right now, I totally get it. It's too much. I can't even stand myself. Okay, you guys have a great day.